Outside of the inefficacy, what are your thoughts on side effects of affirmative action as an argument against it? Social tensions, market forces. Here's something that I'll say that white men have a really hard time with this. I'm sorry, I just triggered about half my audience. White men have a really hard time understanding a concept of representation, because if you're a white man, you've never had the feeling that a particular job, place, environment wasn't for you, right? Like I've never looked at like a job at NASA and thought like, well, I'm white, do I belong there? Like even when it comes to like rap, okay? We've got legendary white rappers like Tom McDonald and Uncle Adams trailblazing the way for us white brothers with flow, okay? Representation is really important. I thought something that was really funny. I brought this up. I don't know if this made any of the Jubilee cuts. Oh no, actually, I didn't even say this, so it won't be in any Jubilee cut. I didn't say this. Is at some point, I think the younger black conservative kid in front of me, I say kid because I think he was literally 18, young adult, young male, adolescent. I don't know what the fuck you say. What do you call young people? Don't trigger them. At some point, he was making the argument that representation wasn't important or didn't matter or some bullshit, whatever. But later on another prompt, I think like an hour or two later, he brought up casually that Ben Carson was his big inspiration for getting into conservative politics. And he cites Thomas Sowell, a black economist who also talks about everything, a lot in terms of being an inspiring figure for him to get into conservative politics. So it's funny that even when people say they don't care as much about representation, I think they do. So I think your strongest affirmative arguments for things like affirmative action or things that boost representation in general is even if somebody doesn't deserve to be there or didn't qualify in, just having other people in society seeing that person there makes them want to be involved in that thing. Destiny, cite evidence that representation matters, cite evidence that it significantly impacts overall self-esteem level, show that self-esteem level differs by group, stop speculating, start proving. So when it comes to sociology, it's going to be really hard to prove anything because all of these effects are so multivariate. The soft sciences are incredibly difficult to prove anything versus the hard sciences that are much easier in terms of like proving absolute statements. But I think that one of the more interesting things that we've read about before from the X-Files, something called the Scully effect, that supposedly, I wonder if there was a paper published on this, that a lot of young girls were saying that the reason why they wanted to go into science, medicine, engineering, and law enforcement was because they'd watched the X-Files and they saw Scully in the X-Files and like, oh, she does this, I can do it too. I wonder if there were actual papers published on this. It would be interesting to cite. Scully effect remains a subject of academic inquiry. But isn't there some trade-off on valuing representation over competence? There seems to be major... Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to balance it carefully. You don't want to have too much affirmative action because too much affirmative action is going to undermine whether or not people take those people seriously anymore, right? Which is a problem. You know, oh, I've got a black doctor. I don't trust this guy. It was affirmative action done, you know? Yeah. 40% legacy admissions, yet no one questions white doctor at Destiny. Why is that? Good question. Or maybe you're about to get operated on by a surgeon and he's like, oh yeah, I played D1 football. And you're like, oh shit. Although to be fair, I don't know if you can well, no, hold on. I don't know if are legacy admissions a thing in graduate level programs or in med school. Also, yeah, I think that guy said that legacy students don't underperform either. So it's not like they don't deserve to be there or having issues. Speaking of someone who's applying this year, it's not, but it's very highly looked upon, for example, my applications, that there is a checkbox for if you know someone who goes to the school or who graduated from the school or who works at the school. Destiny, representation, is it just for young people? I'm a boomer and I feel like I can connect with any character in shows, movies, games, regardless of gender, race, etc. You might be able to. I can do that, okay? I can connect with any character. I know I can. I have no problem doing it. And I used to think that everybody could, or at least white people could. And the thing that shattered my illusion on this was back when I used to argue more from an anti-SJW side in like 2011, 2012, I think 2013, this is lore that 90% of my audience knows, but I'm repeating it. I used to argue that I don't care if the main characters in games are black or white or trans or female or whatever, because who cares? And all of my audience would agree with me. Yeah, we agree. And all the white people would agree. And like, yeah, who cares? Like, why do black people make such a big fuss about whether the character is black or white? Does that really matter? And then a FIFA game came out where the main character, I think, was clearly Hispanic. And white people on Reddit lost their minds. Like all of the most 300, 400 plus upvoted comments were like, I don't know how I'm supposed to play as this Hispanic kid. Like, it doesn't feel like I relate to this guy at all. Or was he black? Maybe he was black. I thought it was Hispanic. Maybe it was a black kid. And there was no option to change the character. And when I started reading that, I was like, hold up. I thought we didn't care about this. And then I realized it's one of those things where it's like, I don't care about this particular issue just because I'm at the top of the hierarchy. And as long as I'm at the top of the hierarchy, then I'm going to pretend I don't care about the issue. Yeah. FIFA main character, what are you talking about? I don't know. There was like some FIFA game where in the story mode, I don't know how it works. I don't play FIFA. I have no idea how the fuck it worked, but I just know people lost their mind over it. It's really easy to prove this when you play Baldur's Gate 3 and have sex with a bear. I'm exactly like the 4chan comic. Like, I'll roll into a game and be like, holy shit, there's a ton of cool classes. There's a lot of diversity in what you can do here. There's like different types of like races. And I'm going to roll a white human knight with a sword and shield. Let's go, baby. Every single time. I've seen this Stone Toss comic. And I don't know if I trust the black people who have told me this, but I can only go by my anecdotal black friends, and maybe other black people felt differently. I've seen the Stone Toss comic. She's just like me, but black kids love DBZ. I thought black kids looked to Piccolo more than anything else. Am I making that up? I feel like there were always like green characters that were like coded as black. I wouldn't say Piccolo was coded as black, but like Skeeter from, I think, Doug was, I think, coded as black. Oh, we've got disagreements in chat. Piccolo is literally black. Black kids look to Goku. You're right, but it's not a trend. That was for Mr. Popo. I don't think anybody liked Mr. Popo. I'm black and I loved Vegeta. Piccolo said the N-word. My best friend is black and f***ing loves Piccolo. All the black weebs I know like Naruto. We like Goku because he's a hero, but Piccolo because he reminds us of black people. Piccolo was just like a racist caricature of a black person, but that was back when we could do that on TV. Like literally, like it was like blackface, like actually literally, or minstrel show type character. Like, Jesus. I don't want to talk about DBZ too much, but I missed in DBZ when like the balance of power kind of like tipped between a whole bunch of different characters, as opposed to the end of the show where it was really just like the Saiyans, and then like all the other side characters were completely and totally irrelevant. Like, when the f is Krillin gonna be the determining factor in a fight, or when the f is like, and then there was like the 3 side losers that nobody cared about. What was it? It was like Yamcha, Tien, and the other guy who I thought was the Saiyan because he had the hair, but I'm pretty sure he's just a human. What was the guy's name? Oh, Chaozu maybe? Chaozu? That guy was just human, right? He always looked like a Saiyan. I thought he was just like a loser Saiyan, but